Could it be? With me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 2025 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names of the 2025 NFL Draft. We're talking cornerbacks, and we're finishing up the group today with numbers 7 through 1 on my list in terms of rankings. We've gone through 15 through 8. Now we'll finish out this group. As I said on the previous video, Volume 2, I don't think this is the best crop of corners, but the corners that we are going to discuss today are the best of the best in this year's draft class, to me, in my humble opinion. And so these are the guys that give you the best chance to knock it out of the park potentially in this draft. And these are the guys that I think will hear their names called fairly early in this draft. I don't think of all the corners that we'll talk about today that you'll hear any of them hear their names called any later than the early stages of the third round. But I'm thinking all of these guys are either first or second round picks here, right? So with that said, let's dive right into this list and pick up where we left off at number 7. This is a guy that I'm not on as high on as most people, and that's Siobhan Revel Jr. out of East Carolina, 6'2", 194 pounds. Obviously tore his ACL this year after just 4 games, so wasn't able to do any of the pre-draft workout stuff. But, you know, having torn his ACL so early in the season, and if everything checks out medically, he should be ready to rock and roll by the start of training camp, more likely than not. But with that said, before the injury, this is a guy who had 4 career interceptions. I've said this about a number of corners in this draft. The eyes on these guys are spectacular. He's another one of these dudes that does a really good job of seeing it and then going and getting it. Now, I think he is so he's got a high back pedal. I don't like that for starters. He's leggy, so his transitions are leggy, and I think that allows people to get a step or two on him. I do like his length. I do think he is willing to tackle, but I don't love the ability to. And so I wonder what his 40 time is. We're not going to find out, obviously, because I think he actually does a solid job of staying connected down the field. A lot of times he does not find the football down the field, but he's in, really solid position. But again, he was at East Carolina. So I'm watching him body up Duke receivers and, things of that nature. And I'm like, yeah, just don't know if you're going to be doing it at the NFL level, right? So I'm anxious to see, what he looks like, fully healthy. How well does he run? You would have loved to have seen him amongst his peers and, with a higher level of competition, where he would have been. Because I've got some questions. He reminds me so much of, and this is not a good thing, which is why I tell you I don't really love him. He reminds me a lot of Kevin King, the Washington corner that was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. I think he's with the Atlanta Falcons now, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a big Kevin King fan, and Kevin King plays high, and Kevin King doesn't always locate the football. I think there's a lot of that in his game, but if you're talking about a guy with some length, with some size, that seems like he can run, that has the ability to take the football away, got his hands on the football quite a bit. He's very handsy, very physical. Siobhan Revel Jr. may be the guy for you. Not my cup of tea. I think there are other corners who personify what it means to be a corner, I think, at the NFL level a little bit better than him in this draft. Hence, he's number 7, but I do see the talent. I do see the things you can't teach, the size, the length, the ability to take it away. But Also, I'm always a little leery of guys coming off of like ACL injuries and things of that nature. That always is something that I'm very, very leery of. But he's my number 7 corner in this draft. Checking in at number 6. Speaking of coming off of injuries, there's another guy coming off of an injury. Now, this one was a hip injury, but before that, he was outstanding for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and that's Benjamin Morrison, excuse me, 6 feet, 193 pounds. Dude jumped on the scene as a freshman, had 6 interceptions his freshman year, 3 against BC in one game. I remember that game and thinking, oh my God, this guy is phenomenal. And then I think the next week he had like 2 more interceptions. Um, and I was just like, wow. He picked off Caleb Williams last year in the game when they beat the USC Trojans. Morrison is a really good corner and very fluid. And a hip injury ended his season this year. So, always something to monitor when you're talking about corners, But this is a guy that finds the football, makes plays on the football, plays sticky coverage. Now, he can be inconsistent coverage-wise at times, which can be a little frustrating. Every so often, because I think he's got a smooth back pedal. I think he's got good transition, but every now and again, he'll get a little lackadaisical. Maybe his eyes will take him somewhere that they shouldn't, and he'll be a little nosy, and he'll get lost for a second. But all in all, this is a guy that has the complete package, and I really think has a chance to be a really good NFL corner. And so, excuse me, when you watch him play, he's one of those guys that can play press, can play man, can play off, tremendous eyes. And I talked about that. To me I think that is the best attribute of this entire collection of corners this year is they see it well. A lot of these guys, they understand route combinations. They understand where the quarterback's trying to go with the football. They trust their eyes and they break and they go get it, right? And that's something you love with corners. Again, it can be a gift and it can be a curse, as I've mentioned before, because sometimes guy sees the football, he wants the football, and he forgets what his assignment is on the play, and he loses his luggage, right? Or because he sees an opportunity to jump the out, it's an out and up, and now he's got, right? Now he's beaten. So you'll see that from time to time with some of these guys, but Benjamin Morrison is a guy that I think is an easy mover, good transition, can locate the football, will take it away. And, one of the things that you love with corners are guys that will take the football away. When a quarterback makes a mistake, you make them pay for that mistake. You don't get a do-over. You don't get to try again. That's what stops quarterbacks from trying you and testing you. If you have a low completion rate, but you're not taking the football away, well, I'll try my hand at that. All right, I'll give it a spin, right? But because if I make a mistake, I'll get another shot. But if you're one of those guys that, hey, you make a mistake here, you pay for said mistake with a turnover, I'll try my hand elsewhere, right? And Morrison is one of those dudes that you make a mistake in his general vicinity, you're going to pay for said mistake. And he's been one of the best in college football at doing that. And so he reminds me a lot of Deron Bland of the Dallas Cowboys. Similar build, similar way that they attack the football, great eyes, can close, take it away. Bland, dealt with a significant injury, and he missed most of last season. Same thing happened to Morrison here. But when Bland is healthy, one of those guys that's just a demon when it comes to taking the football away. I feel the same exact way about Benjamin Morrison. He is my number 6 corner in this year's draft class. Checking in at number 5 is a guy that has tremendous upside. hasn't started a lot of games, hasn't played a ton of football at the cornerback position. Talking about Ole Miss's Trey Amos, 6'1", 195 pounds, ran a 4.43 at the scouting combine, had 3 career interceptions, all 3 of them, if I'm not mistaken, coming this season. I think all 3 of them came this season, may have been 2 this year and then 1 when he was at, I think he started out his career at Louisiana, Lafayette, I think. But he started out at Louisiana, played there for 3 years, transferred to Bama thinking he was going to go and, take that big step, go to the SEC, establish himself, and then move on to the league. Went to Bama, got no clock, and was like, I can't do this shit. And so he transferred and left because one of the coaches that got him to Bama left and went to Ole Miss, so he just followed him and got an opportunity at Ole Miss and made the most of it. So he essentially started 1, full year in the SEC and played lights out. And I like him. I like him a lot. He's a taller, longer corner, right? But he can run. He's physical, but not to the point where he's going to get a ton of penalties. He, puts his hands on you, but he knows when to let go. Stays attached. Does a really good job of doing that. He's a guy, I don't necessarily love him as a tackler. I think he could be a little bit better in that regard, but you probably could say the same about a lot of these corners for the most part. But he can run. I think he does a good job of staying connected down the field. He's a guy that I think does a good job from off as well as man. I think he's a guy that has a chance to end up being a better pro than he was a collegiate player. And that easily could be because he just didn't get enough reps and he didn't have opportunity to really blossom and grow as a collegiate player. But I just think his best football is ahead of him. Brings a lot of good traits, a lot of things you're looking for: length, size, speed. And I think he does a really good job of locating the football too. So I liken him to Tyson Campbell, former 2nd-round pick of the Jacksonville Jaguars out of Georgia, who's been a really good corner for the Jags to this point. I think Trey Amos looks like Tyson Campbell and has a chance to play like him at the next level. He's my number 5 corner in this draft. Checking in at number 4 is Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky, 5'11", 183 pounds, ran a blazing 4.28 40 at the combine. He is a lightning rod. He is interesting. He's undersized at 183 and 5'11", and again, kind of fits with this entire class. I talked about that on volume 2, that none of these corners that we've talked about are over 200 pounds, right? They're all sub 200 pounds. So, if you want a 200-pound corner, you got to go look at a guy like maybe Tommy Hill in this draft, right? Out of Nebraska. Like, there's just not a lot of these guys. So, Hairston fits in with this draft. Just kind of undersized, boundary corner that has some ball production, some really good ball production, and has the ability, once he gets it in his hands, to go the distance the other way. Much like I've talked about with a number of these corners, their superpower in this draft at the cornerback position is their eyes, and trusting their eyes and breaking on the football and going and getting it, from off coverage, seeing it and attacking it. And he's one of the best in this draft at doing exactly that, which is where the ball production comes from. He's one of those guys, he sees it, and when he sticks his foot in the ground, it's immediate, it's electric, and it's downhill. I mean, it is fun to watch. And so, there's this, conundrum with him because he's small. He's a smaller corner. And so he can survive out there, right? He can do it. But again, I keep talking about this. The receivers aren't getting any smaller that come into the NFL. They're not. But, as much as I say that, you still have corners that are, smaller, of the smaller variety, that are able to handle the rigors of the NFL. And I'm interested to see if Maxwell Hairston can do that, because he's got all the tools. He's sticky underneath. He can run, down the field. Um, he can, take the football away. He can play man. He can play off. He can play zone. They moved him around a little bit at Kentucky. I think he's a guy that, again, has a chance to be special. But I want to see how he holds up against, big NFL receivers who can run, who can use their body. And I think he does just enough in run support. He's, again, most of these guys aren't tremendous in terms of run support, but he kind of fits in. So my comp for him is Jonathan Joseph, a guy that I really thought had a strong NFL career as an undersized boundary corner. Played a lot of years outside, even though he wasn't the prototypical size corner. And whether he was in Cincinnati or he was in Houston, I just thought he did a really good job and had a long career because of it. And I could see Maxwell Hairston, doing similar things with his skill set in this league. He's my number 4 corner, and more likely than not, a first-round pick in this draft. I think all of the final 4 of these guys are first-round picks, more likely than not. I think that's where the first-round corners stop for me in this draft. Everybody else is more likely a second-round pick, if you ask me. Checking in at number 3 for me is Michigan cornerback Will Johnson, 6'2", 194 pounds. Has dealt with some injuries in his collegiate career, had a knee injury hamper him at the beginning of the 2023 season, the national championship season for the Michigan Wolverines. Had a toe injury that abruptly ended his 2024 season. I think he missed the final 6 games, I believe, something to that effect, of the season. So that's something to keep in mind with him. And then he had a hamstring injury. I don't like to say if a guy does or doesn't, but he conveniently did not run a 40 at his private workout that he had for teams prior to the draft. He did everything else, though. So I always think guys that don't run are hiding something. And he strikes me as a guy that's hiding because I don't think he's very fast. That said, boy, is he electric when it comes to underneath coverage. When he's off and he's keying eyes and he's watching route combinations and routes develop, he knows what's coming and he's sitting on it. I don't know if there's a corner better in the draft of just going and go getting it, right? There's a pick against USC this year that is just beautiful, where he just steps in front of it and just takes it. And he saw it. He saw the quarterback. He saw what he was trying to do. And he just sat on it, stuck his foot in the ground, and just went and took it. And he was gone. And he's just one of those guys that he is extremely greedy, extremely nosy. And again, it's a gift and a curse because it can get you into trouble. And it's going to get him into trouble, I can tell, because he doesn't have the makeup speed. Once you get on top of Will Johnson, it's hard for him to get back into the play and be a presence, especially if you're talking about dynamic speed. I watched him get hurt by Ohio State's Marvin Harrison Jr., right? And none of us think Marvin Harrison Jr. He never ran a 40, but none of us think Marvin Harrison Jr. is a dynamic speed guy. And again, Marvin Harrison Jr. is a hell of a receiver, but he had his struggles with him, right? In that game. And, the thing I like about Will Johnson is that he'll play anywhere. He'll play inside, he'll play outside, he'll play man, he'll play off. Um, I don't love his demeanor as a tackler. He really doesn't want to tackle, right? He'll do it if he has to, but he really doesn't want to. But again, like I said, you could say that about a lot of guys in the drafts at the cornerback position. So I don't beat guys up as much as long as you do it when you have to. But you would much rather see a guy that's trying to get in the fray, right? That wants that smoke. He really doesn't. But that said, his eyes, his ability to click and close, it's tremendous. It's fun to watch. And he's one of those dudes that make you think twice, right? He's that guy that makes you take that extra beat and allows that defensive end to turn the corner and get to the quarterback. Because if you make a mistake around Will Johnson, you might not get the football back. 9 career interceptions for this guy, right? When you get to the upper echelon, creme de la creme, you're talking about dudes that just take it away. And that's the name of the game, is give me the corner that's taking it away. Don't give me the guy with all these damn PBUs. I don't want that shit. PBUs are fine, right? But you live to fight another day with a PBU. A takeaway is instant. I want instant gratification from my corners. I want it now. I want the football now. I don't want them to punt. Punting is fine, but I want it now. I want the football now. And guys like Will Johnson go and get the football now. And he's really, really good at it. My comp for him is another guy that was really, really good at taking it away at the NFL level, and that's Aqib Talib. He reminds me so much of Aqib Talib's in terms of his movement skills. I think Aqib Talib was a little bit bigger, in terms of his size. And I think he weighed over 200 pounds. But I think they run similar. And I think Aqib Talib was a sub 4.5 guy. And I think Will Johnson probably is like a 4.48, 4.49, which would have been fast enough. But maybe he's not. Maybe he's a 4.52, 4.53 guy. And he knows it. And that would hurt him, right? That would hurt him probably. So whatever the case may be, Will Johnson is my third corner in this draft. And definitely a first round pick and top half of the first round probably. And outside of Travis Hunter, probably I wouldn't be shocked if he's the first corner to hear his name called in this draft. Should be the first corner to hear his name draft. Doesn't mean I think he's the best corner, not named Travis Hunter, because that distinction goes to my number 2 corner in this draft, Jade Baron out of Texas. 5'11", 194 pounds, ran a 4.39 40 at the combine. Now, with a lot of these guys, the first couple of years in their careers, they wore a different number, and then they get to their last year, and they want to wear the nice, flashy number. They want to switch to 0, or they want to switch to some single-digit number that looks cool. Most of these dudes, like, for instance, Maxwell, give me 31 Maxwell Hairston. I like 31 Hairston over 1, right? Give me 23 Jade Baron over 7, right? Give me 23, even though Jade had like 4 picks this year or whatever the number was, 6 picks or whatever he did this year. Because the 23 Jade Baron was in the slot a lot, and he was a menace in the slot, a blitzer, physical, around the ball. He was everywhere when he was in the nickel. But he showed the versatility this year as number 7 outside. And so that versatility is definitely going to help him. I prefer him inside as a nickel, personally, myself, watching him play. He is a willing tackler, can get that done. He is a guy that can blitz. He is a guy that, again, another one of these dudes, a little handsy. I will admit he's a little handsy, right? But sticky coverage, stays attached, attacks the football, click and close ability, sees it, goes and gets it. He's one of those dudes that benefits a lot from tips and overthrows. You hear that a lot too. And it's so true with corners. A lot of the interceptions are tips and overthrows, right? This badly, placed footballs, poor luck, guy tips it, or goes off the hand of a receiver, and now you're the benefactor of that. Um, and Jade Baron had a lot of that happen for him, where he tipped off somebody, said, "Oh shit, look what I found!" Right? But then you had the Georgia game where he was at the right place at the right time. You know, one was tipped off someone's hand, and then the other, he said, "Give me that," and he went and took it. Right? Got caught for pass interference initially, then they picked up the flag and said, "Nah, you're good. Don't worry about it." Right? So because he could be a little handsy, like I said. So that I do worry about with him, but that's outside. I think inside is where he's at his best. Um, I do think though, even though he posted a 4.39, I do think that when guys get on top of him, he struggles to then make it. Like I don't see that burst to get back into play and make up the ground and be a part of that play. So that's something that I do worry about with him a little bit. But that's why I said I more so would put him in the slot, because I really think he can be a menace inside. And man, watching him was so much fun. 8 career interceptions. So the ball production is clearly there. And there are a number of house calls with him. But he reminds me so much of Chris Harris Jr. He reminds me so much of Chris Harris Jr. Um, and I remember there was a stretch there where Chris Harris Jr. was the best corner nickel for like 3-4 years in the NFL. And he could play inside for, or he could play outside for first, second down, and if you needed him to, kick inside on third downs, or vice versa. So I see that kind of versatility for Jade Baron, and he's my number 2 corner in this draft. And then the number 1 corner, you already know who it is. Travis Hunter, Colorado corner / wide receiver, 6 feet, 188 pounds. So this one is easy, right? Because he got so much better in 2024 as a corner, because I thought he was getting cooked in 2023, to be honest with you. Like I said this already, a lot of dudes were making their highlight tapes off of Travis Hunter in 2023. Now, he didn't see as the level of talent in 2024 as he did in 2023, but you could see why he's going to be a problem. 9 career interceptions speaks to his, ability to play the receiver position and then come over and play cornerback, which ultimately I think is what he's going to do at the NFL level, is play corner and then, have packages where he is at wide receiver. Because if you do it the other way around, it's going to be too hard, I think. But we'll see. He wants to play both ways. We'll see what happens. I don't think he is a physical tackler. I think he has a wide receiver mentality at cornerback, which is a good thing when you're talking about, ball skills. It's a bad thing when you're talking about tackling. He doesn't want to tackle. And then when he does have to tackle, it's a lot of this slinging around like I'm trying to drag you and throw you down, and that shit just doesn't work. It didn't work in college against bigger receivers, and it's not going to work at the NFL level. He's going to have to find better usage of his, or he's going to have to have a better technique of getting guys down. He does a great job of getting people down when it's a ball out in the flat, so he can go and cut their legs from under him. But when the guy sees him coming and he has to try to get them down, he's not physical enough to do it. So that's something he's going to have to clean up. But the agility, the acrobatics, the body control, the quick twitch ability, the transitions, all of that stuff is clean. It's fluid. He's a rare athlete. He's a rare physical specimen in terms of athleticism. And so it translates to both sides of the football. I think he's got Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie's frame and probably his ball skills too, because Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, people forget how good of how many interceptions he had in his career. But I think he's got like the ball skills of a Trayvon Diggs. Remember, Trayvon Diggs went to Alabama as a wide receiver and then made the switch late in his collegiate career to corner. And we saw the dividends being paid off that year. He had, 10 interceptions or whatever the number was. So we know he can take the ball away. Hunter is very similar with that background of playing receiver, and you see it play itself out. if he dedicates himself to the cornerback position, there's no doubt in my mind he's got Pro Bowl ability. But he's so hell bent on playing both sides of the football right now that he may not be great at either because of that. Like I think I know he doesn't want to have to make that decision. He wants to play both sides, and I get it because he wants to do something that he feels like he not only is he capable of, but no one else was really able to do in NFL history. But it's a physically demanding sport. It's tough. Physically, it's tough. Mentally, I just think he needs to pick a side. And I personally think he should play corner. And then you can get your little, wide receiver screens and your little slants and your goal balls or whatever, your jet sweeps. And you can have the ball in your hands on offense that way. But we'll see what happens. But he's my number one corner. And I'm pretty sure he's everyone else's number one corner as well. So, reviewing this list quickly: number 7, Siobhan Revel Jr. out of East Carolina. Number 6 is Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. Number 5 is Trey Amos, corner out of Ole Miss. Number 4, Maxwell Hairston, cornerback out of Kentucky. Number 3, Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. Number 2, Jade Baron, Texas, defensive back. And number 1 is, of course, Colorado's Travis Hunter. So that is going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on 2025 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time as we transition to the defensive line. The deepest part of this draft is the defensive tackle position. So we will get knee deep in that. That will probably be every bit of 3 volumes more likely than not because of just how many good players exist. So we'll dive into that. But until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care and happy Easter to you all. See you next time.
LouieTeeNetwork.